Hello, welcome to this video around building tailored employee experiences with Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework. My name is Viva and I'm a principal product manager in Microsoft and working on the platform side of our organization. So really focusing on explaining how to do Microsoft 365 experiences, and in this time we're going to talk about explicitly about the Viva connection. Now, we're going to actually do this in a few different sections within the slides or within the presentation. So we're going to talk about first on as an introduction to Viva Connection opportunity and capabilities. So what is Viva Connection all about and why does it matter? So if you're an ISV or if you are a customer or a system integrator or a consultant, what does it actually bring and what are the extensibility options in the Viva Connection? And then the second part, we're going to talk about a bit more about the other capabilities which we have within the SharePoint framework. So even though Viva Connection is called Viva Connection, we actually build extensibility for Viva Connection using SharePoint framework, as that's the UX layer. How do you implement your customization, which is then connecting to the Microsoft Graph and so on, or LOB systems, and so many opportunities there. And of course, in the last, we'll look on the different resources and assets which are available for you to take advantage. Now, as said, we wanted to start with the Viva Connection introduction and what the Viva Connection is all about. And Viva Connection has two different pieces and two different main kind of areas or modules, so to say. And the number one of them, which typically is also explained first, is the desktop module. And the desktop module basically gives an opportunity of having the corporate communication on intranet or the portal exposed directly within the Microsoft Teams. So how we do this is that we are designing the corporate communicational portal, the communication information, the functionalities, and there's full flexibility for you to do that. And then we expose that inside of the Microsoft Teams. So again, making sure that the people can stay in the Microsoft Teams, stay in the context of their flow. When they open up the Microsoft Teams, they can easily still see and follow what's the latest news and all of the different articles related on company announcements. Now, in here, as we are building the desktop experience, you can do extensibility any way you want. So you can design the UX to be having almost whatever elements. There are certain guidance and certain instructions and starting points which we give you. But again, you have full flexibility on what are the web parts, what are the UX elements which are visible within the Viva Connection desktop. And we support web parts, SharePoint Framework extensions, and also the new pieces which is Viva Connection adaptive card extensions, which are visible in the dashboard area of this slide as well. Now, the second piece of the Viva Connection is then the mobile side of the house, and mobile experience is really targeted for the first-line workers, frontline workers, and also making sure that as you're using the mobile device, you can easily access in an optimized way your company assets, your company news, your company information, and even functionalities what the company is actually providing. So the Viva Connection mobile can be kind of divided in three different sections. We have the dashboard, which is fully customizable, so you can design your own cards and experiences for the dashboard. Then we have the feed, where a user can always follow up on what's happening around the company and close to the user. So there's news announcements, changes in the latest documents and news articles, and all of those is actually visible in the feed. And then we have the resources section, which is more on accessing the latest information, the sites and articles and documents and guidances and all of that. Now, the biggest focus area for us within, from an extensibility perspective, is for sure the dashboard. And in the dashboard, there's a lot of different opportunities. And this is a really big partner opportunity as well, as we're now starting to roll out this idea of mobile portals, native mobile experiences in these devices. And we're going to walk through a lot of those options throughout this video. So as said, the dashboard is really the new opportunity, which is primarily targeted for mobile. Now, the dashboard itself is also actually visible in the desktop experience. And how this works is that as you're accessing the front page or you're accessing the Viva Connection through Microsoft Teams, if you are using a mobile, you will be seeing the dashboard experience, which is really optimized for the fingers and thumbs to actually click those buttons and see things. And then as you're using it, if you're using a desktop, then in the desktop you can actually show the same dashboard. So it's just making sure that you can access the same functionalities and same capabilities from both sides. And the dashboard is really there to bridge and combine multiple different services in Microsoft 365. So it's really for there to work as the hub of collecting information from SharePoint, from Microsoft Teams, from Power Platform, from web and mobile. So it has that flexibility inside of it. Now, we did talk about those cards a bit, but how does it actually work? So as we are designing experiences for Viva Connection, we have a few different kind of topics to focus on. First of all, we have the card, and the card is a bit limited. There are plans to actually provide more flexibility in this in the future, but you can design a card where you show information in the optimized way for mobile. Like in this case, it is the well-being card, which says you have 5 more well-being days. So of course, the content can be dynamic. It can be images or images with the text. And as I then click the schedule button, I will be seeing, or I will see, and I will be shown the most important functionality within that application in quick view. And that's why it's called a quick view. So it's quick view for the application, which might be a bit complex to use, and there might be multiple functionalities and all of that. But quick view is really designed for having the primary action available in the native mobile experience. And the cool thing about the quick view and the card view is that it's actually rendering in a native mobile experience. So it's not rendering as an HTML. It is super fluent, fast, efficient. And as you are used to probably use your iPhone or Android phone to picking up the calendar number, calendar dates and all of that, it's actually using those native rendering tooling to expose, for example, a date like in this example. And then if the quick view, if you need to do something else, or if from the quick view we can actually redirect user then to the actual application. And again, depending on the use case, it might be that you access the application from quick view, maybe from the card, or maybe you'll access from the 3 dots in the more section in the mobile view in the Microsoft Teams. But really the basic idea here is that the quick view is there to simplify and speed and increase productivity of the users. Those frontline workers who are working on the field and they're really busy on actually doing their job, but they need to do something every now and then. They need to check the latest news, latest articles on the company and the latest updates and announcements, and maybe they will want to request a well-being day, or they need to have a sick day, or they want to record their work actions on during that day in a simplistic way. So rather than forcing them to go to the full application, we can use the quick view to really speed up that behavior. Now, how do we get those cards into work? So there are 3 ways of acquiring those cards. So first of all, there's out-of-the-box cards or out-of-the-box apps or inbox apps or first-party apps or whatever we want to call them. And there's going to be more and more of these applications which are coming from Microsoft. So any customer can take these into use. You can also find already today Viva cards and Viva connection solutions from the app stores and from the SharePoint store. So you can actually go there and you can easily find those solutions which are available. Or alternatively, as a third option, you can use the LOB apps option where what it means is that you're implementing the card as a system integrator or as a customer, as an in-house development model, or as a consultant for your customer, and then you're installing that to be available within a tenant. So all of those 3 options are, of course, available. And what are those different cards? Well, there's actually 3 different cards, and there are 3 different models for all of those Viva cards. So there's the no-code option, which is basically based on the first-party experience, first-party cards what Microsoft is providing. For example, the Teams app there is a super powerful card which can be linked to a Teams application which is running in your company. We have the low-code option, which is basically there to give you flexibility on UX design without the requirement of having writing code. And then we have the professional developer experience using the SharePoint framework. Now, let's actually jump into a demo and have a look on how does that look in the practice? So what does it actually mean that we have two different options, the Viva desktop and the mobile, and what are our extensibility options which are available? So in this video, we're going to talk about the positioning and the offerings and the possibilities what we have with the Microsoft Viva connection, and how do we actually present things, and how the Viva connection is being exposed for the end users. Now, this is one way of looking into Viva Connections, which is basically we are inside of Microsoft Teams, and this is the Viva Connection desktop. You can access that typically with the Viva Connection on the left side on the navigation in Microsoft Teams. Quite often it's actually in the top of the left navigation, but again, it's up to your own design and decisions. How do you want to expose that? You can also change that icon, which we can see on the left navigation, and you can personalize that text also, so it doesn't have to say Viva Connection. So it's again based on your business requirements and preference. How do you want to expose that? And now the Viva connection is then there to give access on the corporate information. So it's really the corporate communication or portal from where we can get access on the latest news and articles and guidance within the company. So we can easily keep people up to date on what's actually happening, the videos and all of that stuff exposed from a one centralized location, which can be easily accessed directly in Microsoft Teams, where most of us who are working in the desktop environment are going to be working throughout the day. Now, one thing what we always quite often show in the context of the desktop is also the dashboard, and this is basically then the Viva Connection dashboard, which has two sides as well, which is the desktop and the mobile side of the house. And quite often actually what happens is that within our demos, we kind of show the desktop and we show these cards in the context of dashboard, and this might be a bit confusing. It's almost like, okay, so but these cards are pretty limited, and it's like, well, what are we actually doing here? And well, they're cool looking cards and you can do cool things with the adaptive card design, but what's the difference between the web parts and extension opportunity, which is the way you can customize the desktop experience, and the mobile experience, which is in the dashboard? So let's actually work on that one a bit in this demo. Now, first of all, as said, in the desktop side of the house, there's kind of three ways of extending Viva Connection. So you can implement your custom web parts and experiences. You can surface LOB data, dashboard data. You can do anything what you want based on business requirement within this UX using a SharePoint framework. So SharePoint framework is the extensibility model, not only for Microsoft Teams, not only for SharePoint, but also for Viva, because technically Viva Connection is powered by SharePoint behind the scenes. Now, you can do extensions as well. You can do all of those kind of existing things, but then the Viva Connection, the new opportunity there was the Viva Connection cards and adaptive card extensions, which are these, which we can see in the dashboard web part, and we can go to the corporate dashboard to actually see them a bit more detail. So good example, these are kind of an example cards for demonstrational purposes, and I'm going to talk about where they're coming from in a second, but they're a really nice set of cards which are showing the art of possible within the Viva Connection cards. So you can do cool things, cool designs, you can do forms and access points and all of that in the quick view. And that's actually a really important thing to also notice. There's kind of two views on these adaptive card extensions. There's the card view, which is the one which you can see here, which is basically showing a bit limited set of information with the buttons or without a button. And then as we click the card with our finger, quite often, not with the mouse, because again, these are designed for the mobile, we are being presented the quick view information. And the quick view is really there to minimize the need of going to a separate application. So as an example, if you would, for example, want to request let's say I want to schedule a well-being day off. I can just briefly use this quick view rather than going to a separate application, moving away from the context of all of the other information. I can just say that, hey, I'm interested in actually taking a time off on the 2nd of May, Monday break, whatever the reason is, and I can schedule that directly without, again, going to a separate application where then the administrator or the manager can approve or operate the actual thing. So that's really the purpose of the quick view. And quick views can be actually quite complicated, and they can be quite elaborate, so to say. So you can do cool stuff here as well. They can be simple. They can have multiple views, so you can actually move across individual details. You can move across multiple applications and all of that. So there's a lot of different opportunities in here. Now, but as said, as we're demoing these quick views quite often in the desktop, it is a bit kind of a misleading. So it's much more important to understand that all of the quick views are basically designed to be exposed in the mobile device. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of people employed in the companies who do not work in the front of the desktop. They don't have a computer. They actually have the mobile phone or their personal phone, which they're using to connect to the mobile services. But you still want to inform them on the opportunities and give them the benefits, give them the access on the corporate functionalities and the latest news. And that's where the Viva Connection mobile experience is coming from. So having this kind of a mobile first experience, where the user can easily do the quick operations and see the summary of things again without moving away to another location is the key. And also this Viva Connection Mobile gives the opportunity of building the corporate mobile portal. So it's really optimized for the mobile experiences with cards, optimized for to be used with fingers. You click a card, you will actually see the information around the card, and then you can operate something in the quick view if needed, and again, depending on the design case. So good examples would be something like let's say you're signing up for a thing, you want to request vacation, you want to approve things quickly rather than again remembering which application do I need to go. You just go to your corporate mobile and you can see immediately from an administrator that there's 2 pending well-being requests and I should be processing those requests as part of my day-to-day work, and I can easily then access those from my mobile device. And that's really the key here. In this scenario, for example, we would be able to, well, let's walk through here. As the person who doesn't sit in the front of the desktop, they can actually go and request a day off, let's say in July 7th, and saying that additional day off, and they can actually request that to be then processed by the manager. And then as the manager comes to work and the manager is using the desktop, they can actually access the same information from the desktop. In this case, we can actually jump, not all from there, we can actually jump to the processing of those requests in the web app. So I'm going to use the browser in this case because I don't want to use the desktop. But again, it would work in the desktop as well. I can go to my Teams from the Viva Connection card. I can easily then access the team application, the personal application, to process, for example, the well-being requests which are pending for me. So, and in this case, as an example, just a implementation detail, but of course this application here is implemented using SharePoint Framework as well, because it is the easiest way to implement this kind of a enterprise solutions, because it takes care of the hosting, not only for Viva cards, but also Microsoft Teams personal applications or tab applications, and then the data and the application is running in the context of this tenant, rather than this being a URL or iframe being exposed somewhere else in the internet. But again, I can use then, as a manager, I can then approve this well-deserved. And here we go, and we can approve the process, and that means that we have now the end user has used the mobile, easily access the information, but we actually used as a manager then the desktop view and the desktop experience from the Viva Connection desktop to access the information and access those requests actually in here in the context of Teams. So that's really the new opportunity in here, and it's really crucial to understand that it's targeted for the mobile experience. So really targeted for the mobile. Why? And that's why it's this kind of a card UX way of designing things. Now, quick point here, just to call out all of these cool looking cards which we have in here, demonstrating the art of possible within the cards. This is something which is available for everybody already from the SharePoint store, where we have the Viva Connection solutions as well. So now if I will go to my app catalog as a tenant administrator, and I can go to the SharePoint store, we can actually see this really cool adaptive card extension design solution, which we worked together with Synpraxis Consulting. They helped us to get this in the store, but we worked together as a Microsoft together with them to provide designs and experiences as a sample solutions. They don't actually work, so it's a bit of a smoke and mirror, but it's actually great for demonstrating what is possible and how can you design cool looking mobile experiences which would make sense in a mobile device. So that's where you can actually get that solution, and it is actually also available as an open source solution. So if we go to the GitHub and if we go to SPFX reference, so scenarios underneath the Microsoft 365 community organization. So github.com/bmp SPFX reference scenarios, and in here we can actually find that is design gallery. And we can actually find all of those individual cards and all of the solutions which are available. This solution actually consists from two pieces. So it's a personal application in Microsoft Teams implemented with SPFX, which is demonstrating the art of possible with cards, and then those individual cards. So, but they're not actually functioning. So it's more showcasing the art of possible and how to react button clicks and all of that for our partner ecosystem. But that's all we're going to do in this demo. So let's continue on the other demos, other areas in the next demo and after a few slides. So let's continue with a few advanced capabilities just to kind of pinpoint these options as well, because this is good to know as a starting point or when you're designing your own card and Viva connection experiences. So first of all, you can change the visibility of those cards. So as an example, in this case, there could be something like a register to a conference. And if you have already registered, it doesn't make any sense for that card to be any more visible and requesting the end user to get registered. Or maybe it's a please employee remember to read this guidance, and we want to make sure that you've done that, and we're going to show you that card only once within the mobile device. You can also do paging. So in the Viva connection, in the quick view side of the house, we can do multiple pages, and you can actually flip between those pages, and which is basically meaning that you're moving across the individual quick views. So this can be relatively complex scenarios in here, but again, optimized for the mobile experience. So rather than forcing the user to go to the individual Microsoft Teams personal application, you can do a lot of stuff already in this mobile side of the house. Now, then something new, which is still in preview, coming out was part of the 1.15 of SharePoint Framework, is the geolocation support. So location support, which you can take advantage in your extensibility in the card. So as an example, it could be something like there's a service or support request, or there's a, let's say there's some devices in the road we need to go and double check. You will want to check your guidance and the route to that location, and you can use that functionality directly from the card. So you get this native integration to the mobile experiences in your mobile phone. Again, optimized for mobile, optimized for those people who are working with the mobile primarily in their hand. Well, typically it's in your hand. Anyway, and then the last scenario is the media upload. So you can actually use within the card, you can also upload images. So as an example, if you are a service, let's say a support service engineer, you go to a location, you help the people there, and you need to take a screenshot out of something and maybe store that in later on for analysis. You can do that then using the card directly, rather than again being forced to go to the actual application, maybe a complex application and support center. You can do that in a quick view in an efficient way. Now, as part of this work, what we've been doing, we already have quite a few partners available from the SharePoint store, which are providing a Viva connection card, and much more are actually coming. So there's both Microsoft functionalities coming, and of course a third-party partner functionalities which are coming as a Viva connection cards. And if you're using these services applications already in the Microsoft Teams application, you can then further extend those to be available within the Viva connection dashboard. Now, the Viva connection and Microsoft Teams and SharePoint can be extended using SharePoint Framework. And this is a bit of a confusing, the name might be let's say, confusing still. Why do we call it the SharePoint Framework still, even though it can be used to extend Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Viva and SharePoint? And that's something what we're potentially looking in the future. But SharePoint Framework is really the easiest way to build your enterprise solutions for Microsoft 365. So really targeting that enterprise scenarios where you want to host the code directly within a customer tenant due to compliance reasons, legal reasons, and reusing the same code, which is really, really cool as well. So the same code can be used across SharePoint Online or Microsoft Viva Connection or with Microsoft Teams. So you only need to understand how to implement experiences and how to do development using this one way, and it can be extended across multiple applications. And we're looking into doing this even further within together with an announcement which are coming in the build 2022, which this video is also about. Now, as part of the SharePoint Framework journey and the roadmap, the next version is going to be 1.15. We already have a preview release available for it. So we do always release a preview releases on the upcoming versions together and gradually introduce new functionalities on those until we are ready to go as a general availability. Right now, the 1.15 is planned to go live or ETA to go general availability in June 2022, but that might be changed a bit depending on the feedback, depending on the development cycles and how accurate our plans are. The key points on the 1.15 is really, again, further focus on the Viva connection, more flexibility there, more advanced scenarios in the Viva connection, and also really highly requested feature, which is new customized form customizers to extend the Microsoft list and library form experiences. So overriding that native experience in the Microsoft list and library. But rather than trying to explain what that is all about, let's actually do a live demo where we combine the Viva Connection card, so the Viva Connection experiences together with this new form extensibility which is coming within the list. So let's have a look on this one together. So in this demo, we'll have a look on how we can use the SharePoint Framework Form Customizer components, which is the new component type within the SharePoint Framework 1.15, in a scenario together with Viva Connection cards. So let's actually start this scenario and directly from the mobile, because again, the sweet spot of Viva Connection cards is really the mobile. And in the mobile design of this particular company, we have this request travel card here, which seems to have a bit of a bummer on the image side of the house, but let's not worry about that one. But I can basically do a request of a travel approval directly from here. So let's say I need to go visit the office. I'm traveling to office from Helsinki. That's my base location, and my office is in Seattle. Well, technically in Redmond, but you know, close enough from that perspective. And I'm looking into traveling there from Monday, the 6th of June, and actually coming back on the Friday. So trying to minimize the time away from home. Not returning on 4th, returning on 9th of June. There we go. Minimizing the time away from the family, and let's select the Friday, not Thursday. Here we go. So now that we have that connection in the Viva card, so I can do this request directly in my mobile client. I'm actually submitting that to get approved then by my manager. And in this case, how we implemented this scenario is by using this Viva card, but then the approval process is actually done using the SharePoint Framework Form Customizers in a SharePoint list. So that request which we created using the request button actually got stored in a list within a SharePoint, which is quite easy and a convenient way of bending or adding or storing these kind of requests and then processing them. And in this case, we have the here we go, the travel requests. So now if I refresh, we can actually see that there's one request from Helsinki to Seattle, which is happening on June 6th to June 10th, and it has not yet been approved. Now, the next part is a bit of a smoke and mirrors, because again, right now, I cannot yet, from a UX perspective, directly by clicking that item, I will be not redirected to the right extension and the right rendering logic, because it's a bit early still for SharePoint Framework 1.15, which is scheduled to go out in June 2022. So we will see actually that functionality to be a bit more polished at that time. So by clicking that link, you will be redirected to the right URL and right rendering of the item. So in my case, I'm going to do a bit of an update on the URL so I can see that my ID is number 5. So I will go in here and I will say ID number 5. And it will actually update the request to be from Helsinki to Seattle. And we can see a nice chart and a nice map being rendered on the UX as well. Now, the key point here to notice is that this is the form extension component. So you can actually override the whole UX. You own everything underneath the top section. So directly from the list, as you're accessing the information, you will be then redirected in here. And you can do this for new, view, and edit experiences. In this case, it would be the view experience. And then, of course, in the view experience, I can do accept or reject as the administrator, like in this business case. But again, this is just an example on the what could be done within using this form for list form customizer component, which is now available starting with SharePoint Framework 1.15. No limitations from our side. As you want to then, if I click the accept, whatever happens there, you can redirect the user back on the list in the full list view and do whatever is needed over there. Or alternatively, you can show panels, you can show additional components and elements in this page anyway, as you prefer. Now, how do we implement these things? That's a super simple thing. So we basically have a new component type, which is called the form customizer. And let me actually go to the actual form customizer so we can see it. Here we go. So we are have a new base form customizer, and as you run the Yeoman generator, you can just say that you are looking into creating a form customizer, and we will give you a baseline rendering and baseline starting point with the default components. In this case, the implementation is a bit more sophisticated. It is using React components, and of course, as always with SharePoint Framework, and the hosting component in here is relatively simple, and then we can actually say that in this point we are just using React. It could be any React, it's just normal React implementation, which is then responsible of rendering that cool looking component in here. And then we have the accept and reject buttons, which we could actually handle here. So on save and on close, we can associate those clicks and associate those events to the right button clicks in our custom UX. And then that means that we can actually close the form or we can save the form, and whatever is actually the preferred option. Right now, I can't show you exactly step-by-step the process because again the implementation is still in the middle of getting finalized, but getting there, and ETA for this one was by end of June 2022. So the one thing which we had still on the roadmap slide, which I actually didn't mention on the slide, was also the bot-powered Viva connection cards. And this is something which we unfortunately cannot yet show because it is currently under development as we're recording this video. But what we're looking to do as part of the 1.15 to preview is to introduce Viva connection cards, which are Microsoft Bot Framework powered. So you don't necessarily need to have any TypeScript, JavaScript, or any UX level extensibility, but you can still deliver cards using that then bot framework technology behind the scenes. And this really comes from the perspective that if you are an ISV and you are a partner, you build already on Microsoft Teams, invested on Microsoft Teams platform, and you have your existing bots, so why wouldn't we actually then extend those bots also to provide these individual cards and mobile experiences without then a requirement of understanding any new technical capabilities or adding other technical dependencies within a solution. But this is really cool scenario which is getting already built, so we are committed on investing on it, and it's planned to go in preview as part of the 1.15 GA release. So just to be clear on that, not quite yet, but getting there pretty soon. Now, as we are closing up on the video pretty soon, I wanted to remind everybody we do have now ISV benefits program available also for Viva. So we've been having ISV benefit program for Microsoft Teams, but now this ISV benefit program is also available for Microsoft Viva. So if you're building partner offerings for Microsoft Viva Connection, you can take advantage of this program, and there are marketing benefits, even potentially money benefits, or so what are those money benefits for you to take advantage as well. But at least marketing benefits to start with, and technical support and a guidance provided from Microsoft as in when you're signing into the program. So please check this out if you're a partner and building experiences which are intended to be in the app stores or in the Microsoft Store in general. And that's in AKMS, Microsoft 365 ISV. Now, just to also recap on the other assets. So as of course, you're super excited on now starting to build this Viva experiences on top of your potential existing Microsoft Teams investments. So making sure that those Teams applications are also exposed in Viva Connection, and in the desktop side and in the mobile side, where do you actually get started? Now, the SharePoint Framework documentation, that is a super simple URL to remember, which is akms/spfx. And from there, you'll find guidance on getting started in both the desktop Viva Connection and also in the mobile extensibility for Viva Connection. We also have then specific guidance on start a solution, on design guidances and design assets available for you, which you partly saw actually in some of the videos and demos which we did as part of this video. And there is a free awesome training available, which we created together with our cloud advocates friends at the akms/viva/connection/platform/training. That is a pretty long AKMS address, but from there you'll find this really great 1.5 hour long training, which will explain you how to get started. It will include also enabling Viva Connection in your free developer tenant, and you can then use, after that 1.5 hours, you can know how to build extensibility for both the desktop and the mobile experiences. So it's a really great starting point. And then a final thing what I wanted to call out is our Microsoft 365 platform community. We do have weekly community calls. Last week, as we're recording this video, we had more than 800 live attendees in those weekly community calls. So it's a great way of getting involved. Participating on community calls, contributing in open source, taking advantage of all of the existing samples what we have, and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of free assets available for you to take advantage under our Microsoft 365 platform community. But that's all what we're going to do in this video. So hopefully we got you excited on the Viva Connection opportunity and getting interested on looking into a bit more detailed on those capabilities on the Viva Connection. And there are a lot of cool new announcements now happening in build and also happening after the build. And that's not the end of the story, of course. We are committed on doing a lot of cool stuff with Viva Connection also in the future. But that's it for now. My name is Vesa Juvonen, and thanks for watching.